Elva Hreidarsdottir derives her artwork from the Icelandic landscape, not from its broad features, the mountains, rivers, and vegetation, but from the lines and shapes that appear in its crumbling cliffs, broken basalt columns, and weathered rock. Her prints reflect the fragile and ever-changing face of the land, so recently formed and still being reformed and shaped anew by its volcanoes and the harsh North Atlantic climate. Elva's own journeys through this landscape are an important part of the creative process, yielding photographs, sketches, and new ideas that she then works from back in her studio in Reykjavik. Her method can be said to recreate this history of formation and reformation. She uses calligraphy, where layers of material are applied to create a relief image on a plate, which is then used for printing. Prints made in this way are never quite identical, even when pulled from the same plate, unlike lithographic prints or prints pulled from metal plates, because the surface is softer and more fragile and changes each time it is run through the press. On the other hand, prints made by this process are often more subtly textured and thus more like the images and surfaces that nature itself carves into the rock. The landscape and nature have inspired Icelandic artists since the 19th century. Though their methods and aesthetics have changed radically at several junctures and new ideas and styles have been imported from abroad, many of them always seem to return to this inexhaustible source. When abstraction gained ground in Iceland in the 1940s, it was seen as a release from the landscape tradition that had dominated the previous decades, but in just a few years, many of the abstract painters had returned to the landscape, reinventing the tradition in a new style. Even conceptual artists in Iceland have often drawn their themes from the land, though their approach is very different from that of their predecessors. Elva's method is another new approach to using nature as a source of art, drawing from its endless variety to create a new world of images and a new experience. Her works are far from being just a representation of nature or a recreation of our experience of it. On the contrary, it is as though a new reality is brought into being through the cooperation of nature and the artist, a new context for lines, shapes, and textures that can neither be fully accounted for by the laws of nature nor by the artist's own reasoning. Elva brings nature into her creative process without trying to subsume it within a particular perspective, as landscape paintings generally do, but in order to enrich and expand her own understanding of the images and communicate something new to the audience.